Hi, this is Gayle with BERNINA of Naperville, and I have been left alone far too long in the store with nobody in it to play with my new BERNINA 990. And one of the things I discovered is a very awesome project for how I can use the scanner on my BERNINA 990 and import that scan into my BERNINA embroidery software to actually stipple around an object. I don't need to manually do anything ever again for the rest of my life. Are you in? Do you want to see how easy this is? Come on, let's try.
Before we go over to the drawing board, let's have a look at some of the crucial supplies that we're going to need. Of course, we're using that new BERNINA giant hoop, but in the giant hoop, we're going to need some poly mesh stabilizer, and make sure you get the 20-inch wide kind. Now, I am using two lengths of it because I have to cover way more area than I need because I'm going to do this multi-hooped, but it's going to be much easier if you get the 20-inch wide kind. And I have a little PDF associated with this video. So if you click in the description of the video, you can download this and it'll link right to the supplies that you need. You're also going to want to invest in some Pellon Flex Foam, and this is the two-sided fusible kind. It's just going to be a little bit easier, and you're going to see how to use these things in our Fat Quarter of the Month video that's going to drop Monday night. But in the interim, I'm just preparing you that these are the things that I used. If you don't have the Flex Foam, you can always use the Soft and Stable. That's kind of the key thing that Annie's patterns use, all these bag patterns with this little 1/4-inch kind of foam stuff, but that is not fusible, so you're going to have to use a lot more basting and everything to hold that together. Also, I'm using a size 90 quilting needle and cerulean thread. We'll talk about this in just a moment, but the cerulean thread is very fine. It's a 60-weight poly thread, and it's perfect for texture without obtrusive looking stitches.
These little tacos are a perfect example of how I can quilt something in the background. I don't need to be perfect, and it gives me like this texture so the tacos pop. This could be anything. This could be something that you have that has an embroidery design in the middle. It could be something where you want to stipple around a specific panel of fabric or whatever the case is. But a lot of times, if you do grid and you go around something and you're off a little bit, it shows more with the little higgledy-piggledy wiggly worms of this stipple that's created in our software. It gives us way more creative embellishment. It gives us way more room for error if we don't get something just perfect, because things just don't always come out perfect. Okay, so I have a little quilt sandwich hooped here. This is some of my favorite fabric from Snack Shack from Moda with some fusible double-sided flex foam or soft and stable, whatever you want to call it. And then on the back, there is some other fabric. Now I'm using this poly mesh here so that I can move my giant hoop around and get, the most accurate kind of placement to quilt this particular arrangement in my hoop. Let me turn this over for you. And you can see there's the back side of this. And the back side is 505 sprayed, whilst the poly mesh stabilizer is actually fused onto the other side of the soft and stable. So I just have this arrangement here, and I want to quilt this, but I want to kind of take this to the nth degree. Number one, to show you how you can take your scanned image on your BERNINA 990 into your BERNINA Embroidery version 9 software. Okay, that's one thing. And then just another way to kind of embellish and quilt, and hopefully this gives you some ideas. So the first thing that I want to do is simply scan my design. So I'm here on my BERNINA 990, and I'm going to hit this eyeball button. That pulls up my zoom in and out screen. It also pulls up don't show anything in the hoop, show a grid, whatever. But in order to scan, we want this hoop right here. And you have a drop-down menu on here. Let me get a little closer. So you have a drop-down menu, which is a choice here, and you can do no background, scanned image, or color. I want to do a scanned image because I want to scan my tacos. So I'm simply going to select the green scan hoop button, and the machine is going to prompt me what I need to do. So right now, it wants to make sure that the embroidery arm can move freely. And now it wants me to attach my hoop. And now it wants me to ensure that it can wiggle around. And now it's going to start to scan. And so there are our tacos. So now you see I have a little indiscretion up here. My fabric flopped over, my stabilizer flopped over, and that was caught right on camera. So one of the things that I might recommend that we do is actually redo this. So I'm going to reject the scan by pressing the X button. Make sure everything is flat. Remove my foot and unthread my needle. Or just pull the thread out of the way a little bit, like that. So now I'm going to go back over to my hoop area here, my vision bar, and I'm going to press the hoop, and I'm going to choose the scanned image and scan again. And then we're going to follow all of the prompts that we did before. And I find one of the interesting things is that when it scanned it the first time, it did its little do-si-do on the right side, and now it's done it on the left side. Just an observation. So now here we are, scanned again, and now that fabric flop, that stabilizer isn't in our way. Everything looks good, and I'm going to accept our design, and it's in our hoop over here. And remember, we have that way that we can pinch and pull to zoom in and zoom out, and we can even do 2 fingers and move it around in our hoop there. So I have some ideas for quilting this. I'm sure that you've explored the different quilting designs that are right here on the machine. Now my BERNINA 990 has the latest firmware update that's not quite released out to the public yet, I don't think, but it's coming very, very soon. So I have an Amanda Murphy folder now, and I have some additional quilting designs here. So look for that. And if you're not sure if it's out or whatever, don't forget to contact your local dealer, or you can comment on the description of this video. But there's a lot of choices that I can use to quilt this if I just wanted to quilt it, right? But I want to take advantage of the fact that I can take this image and bring it over into my BERNINA embroidery software and give myself an opportunity to do something really fun with these little tacos. So let's take a little break and go over to our computer and play around with the software. All right, so over here at my computer with my BERNINA Embroidery Software 9 open, and this is the new update, the 9.2, that gives us all of that capability to interact with the 990. I'm going to go over here first of all and make sure that my hoop is selected, and you can tell that it's selected because the hoop icon has this light blue around it there. And then I'm going to choose from the drop-down menu to hoop. I want to make sure that I have my giant hoop selected. Now I want to go here. Now with this new software update for the BERNINA embroidery software, you actually have 2 sewing machine icons instead of 1. The one on the left is to pull information from the sewing machine, and the one on the right is to send information to the sewing machine. So I'm going to select the one on the left because I want to read that scanned image. So I'm going to select my 990 rather than a USB stick, and now you see I have USB stick, the scan hoop icon, which is this right here, or file transfer. So let's pick this design in the middle. And now you can see that exactly what was on the screen of my sewing machine once it was scanned is now in the software. So this is super awesome. So now I'm going to save this. And I'm going to call this like Taco Scan 1. Because I'm going to have to do this, at least about 6 times maybe. We'll see. And now I have this perfect canvas that I can do some fun things with. So once it saves, I'm ready to design. So I'm going to start by zooming in just a little bit and seeing if there's something fun that I want to do here. So I'm kind of on board with stippling this. So let's try something. Doing my full-on filled closed object here.
Just kind of finding a way around here that makes sense. Closing my object to hit enter.
Now I'm going to take that item and I'm going to make it stipple. And if I zoom in, you can see that indeed it is stippled. I don't want it to be that far apart, so I'm going to select Object Properties, and I'm going to do my stitch length is going to be like 2.75, but my loop spacing is going to be much larger. I'm going to say my loop spacing needs to be about 1/2 inch. And now I'm going to apply. I might even go a little bit larger than that, like maybe 0.75 and apply. Let's see what this looks like. I think that's okay. Let's zoom to hoop again. Perfect. All right, so now I want to do something. I want to zoom in on one of my tacos. And I want to create a closed object design. Again, I'm going to pick another color.
And this time I'm going to left click to set my design and right click to make a curve and then left click to change direction.
Line it up exactly the way I want it. Line my design up here exactly the way I want it. I am going to do some changes here. I don't want automatic centering on this. I'm going to deselect that and choose manual centering. There we go. Perfect. Now, with my taco selected, I'm going to zoom out again to hoop, and I'm going to right click and drag my tacos into place. Don't worry about the color. Don't worry too much about this. Zoom in, see how we're doing here. Just kind of want to get it over the taco like that. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now we're going to zoom out, and I'm going to select all my tacos and right click that row and put it into position there. And then we're going to do it one more time for this row over here. Now we're going to zoom in and we're going to digitize this taco. And now I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did to that other row. And now I can select the designs in this row
and right click and drag to cover those. Pretty cool, right? You haven't seen any of it yet. You wait. I'm going to select all of my tacos, and now I'm going to go to edit and remove overlaps. Now, one thing that happened, if you look over here, is that my stipple looks awful. So what it meant was that I picked my stipple to be too far apart. No problem. I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to pick this color again, number 1. I'm going to draw my box again. Now I'm going to manually draw the rectangle because it's not a perfectly rectangle. It kind of tilts a little bit, but I'm going through the middle of that last row of the tacos and then halfway through the bottom row so that we can hide where we're going to embroider this in our multiple hoopings. So now I'm going to change this to stipple after I select it. There we go. And now I'm going to use my color film. If you're not familiar with color film, it's this piece at the top here. I'm going to move color film to the top. And now let's see about removing our overlaps again and see what happens this time. All right, that's much better. And now I'm going to delete our little blue tacos. Now we can see, if we zoom in here, you can see how the stipple goes around the tacos. If I get rid of our picture, you would see it a little bit easier, or I could do artistic view here. So let's zoom out. And do you see what's going to happen now is our tacos are going to be raised and our stipple is going to flatten it down. You do have some limitations once you select this and remove your overlaps to change the density. So let me just show you. So let's do object properties now that we've removed our holes and see if we have any leeway to change this at all. So I'm going to do 0.35 inches in my loop spacing. It doesn't look fantastic. It's not as dense, but it doesn't look as stipply. So let's try maybe 0.3. That looks a little bit better. It's a little less dense. It might be a little bit easier to line things up as we do our entire piece. So I think I'm pretty happy with 2.5 and 3. You could also play around a little bit with your stitch length. But it doesn't do that much to your design. So I'm pretty happy with this. I like it. So now I can send this to my machine. So let's send. So the first thing that you want to do before you send your stitch over to your machine is you want to go into your embroidery settings, select design position, and make sure it's on saved position. The default is center of the hoop, but we want the saved position. And this is kind of a one and done thing. I don't want to save this forever because the chances of me hooping this fabric exactly this way for a second time is non-existent. So I'm picking the needle. And the needle represents that you're going to stitch it out, but you're not saving it permanently on the machine. It's a temporary place. And this is going to just appear in my screen on the sewing machine right now. I'm pretty happy after I made some minor adjustments with that, and now I want to stitch it. And I'm stitching this with a very fine thread because I don't want the thread to be the star of the show. So this is a 60 weight Cerulean thread that is in the top and bottom of my machine. Another thing that can ensure accuracy is to use your pinpoint laser. And if I touch anywhere on here with my fingernail or whatever, I can kind of see, you know, when the scanned, is it lined up? Did anything happen between the scan and saving the image on the sewing machine or the software? You know, whatever. I can be a little bit more accurate. So
like is I kind of tweak this to, you know, kind of suit how I want this around my little tacos and things like that. I want to kind of see how does this area of this taco or the area of this taco compare with what's really down here on the machine. So let me just touch. Oopsie, it's down there. I'm just touching to see where that is in comparison to my machine here. So if I go over here, okay, it's just there. Looks okay. Let's go down here. Looks about like it's supposed to. Now, this might not be perfect. Maybe I should have drawn my tacos a little bit more accurately each time instead of copying and pasting. But at the end of the day, it's going to look pretty cool, okay? You can be more fastidious if you want. So let's go ahead and say okay. Quilting is on. Everything is good. I'm going to go ahead and press the green check mark. And now we're going to stitch. Starting with my thread up command here, just to pull my threads. All right, so the design is complete and it's time to rehoop and do it again.
So I'm just going to pop it out of the hoop, undoing the ratchet, and then move it over to this other side. And you know, I have no problem kind of squeezing these things in with my hands. I've got pretty strong hands, but if you are finding that it needs just a little bit more grip in this giant hoop, they make, you might have seen them in some of the little teaser videos for Bernina, but they make these little black clips and they kind of curl onto the hoop like they have a little hand that kind of grabs it, and then you clamp it down there on the side like that, and you just squeeze it into that little bar and push it over. And there's about 4 to 6 areas where you can actually put that on there on the hoop, and you can see it there in my example.
Okay, there it is. This time we can see the stipple that was on there. And we're going to select and drag to get rid of our old piece. And now we're going to go back to our software. All right, back in our software, I'm going to open a new design. Make sure I can see to hoop. Make sure that my hoop is on manual. And there we have it. So now what I want to do is pull a design from my 990 again, which is going to be this new scan. And there it is. And that looks awesome. So let's zoom in where we can see the indentation right there. See it? Of our stipple. So now we'll know how to draw our line. There's some, so this right here is the taco line where I stopped. So what we're going to do is we're going to digitize again, picking our closed object tool and color number 1. And I'm just going to go down. I think we should stop right about here. Maybe we can go all the way over here to the edge. Perfect. Now let's select our stipple and let's have a look at it. we were at 2.5 and 0.326. I think I liked 3 millimeter or 0.3 inches the best. There we go. And if you don't remember, you can always go back to this other one that's still here, right? And we can look at it in object properties. It was 2.9 and 3. Perfect. Okay. And so I only want to change my stitch length now to 2.9. And I could overwrite this and have this be my template for this fill stitch, but I don't want to do that. This is just for this project. Okay, perfect. Now what I want to do is draw my tacos again. Now, because I have an opportunity to do better this time, maybe I should try to do better, right? Let's pick a new color. Let's get our closed object. Oh, also make sure you have this fill selected. And so now let's see how that looks. All right, so you see on this line here, it looks like it got a little screwed up. So what I want to do is finagle these pieces into position because it looks like my tacos aren't perfectly even. So I'm going to try and see if that works any better over here. We're not going to worry too much about it, okay? All right, so now I need to make a taco over here, and I'm going to do this a little bit differently this time. I'm just going to do it with my angles. That looks good. And now I'm just going to cover my tacos like this. Why not? You can do this any way you want. All right, so now we take our piece. Let's make sure all of our object properties are right on this. It looks okay. This is okay. We're going to remove overlaps over here under Edit. And there we go. Delete this. And now we're going to send it to our machine. All right, so our design shows up here. I did have to move it a little bit to tweak it, but don't be alarmed about that. I got it where I like it. And now I'm just going to repeat. So I'm going to stitch this out. All of my settings from the last time are going to be the same. And now it's time to stitch. Pulling my thread, using my needle up down command, and stitching. All right, another one done. So I'm just going to hoop up a couple more times and then, well, let's see what we want to do with this quilted stuff. I am very pleased with the way this looks. So let's turn this over and you can see it on the bottom as well. Now I did have to put some extra poly mesh in here so I could do my multiple hoopings on my fat quarters because as you know, when you buy a fat quarter, you can't make it larger once it's cut. So I added this extra perimeter around my piece so that I could fit my large jumbo hoop so I could get as much of this piece quilted as possible. I didn't even want to really lament too much over all of the quilting because this is something that I have created to be cut up into other pattern pieces because I want to make a little bag with this. And at first I wanted to make a lunch bag, but now I'm kind of thinking I want to make a little oval bag or a little taco shaped bag. I think that could be really cute. So we've got 2 more of these to do with various different techniques, but I just could not wait to make this one for you. And yeah, so let's see what happens to the other 2 sets. Didn't I tell you that was awesome? And you are going to love what we're making with our little taco quilted soft and stable. Find out if you watch our Fat Quarter of the Month for September 2024. And we have a lot of other tutorials as well on our Bernina of Naperville YouTube channel. It's easy to find. It's youtube.com/Bernina of Naperville. And there you can like, comment, and subscribe. Happy quilting.